Mike, what is the Mensah news? And I'd like to go over. This has been a long time since I did this. Billy's going to be so mad. I'd like to go over the schedule with you. That's not a sentence I thought I would ever say again in my life.
Well, the schedule through the prism of potentially having a quarterback should make for a new discussion. The statement from Young Money. Through close collaboration and principled negotiation, we have successfully negotiated an unprecedented path, one that has now been reached fair and mutually with an agreeable resolution. We commend Darien Mensah for his extraordinary professionalism, maturity, and unwavering commitment to making the decision that best serves his future and family. His approach throughout the process exemplifies the highest standards of character and integrity. With that foundation in place, we are pleased to announce that Darien Mensah, supported by our legal team and legal counsel and Young Money, has reached a settlement agreement with Duke University. He has bought himself out of his NIL deal with Duke. His name was officially entered the portal. Darien Mensah is now free to go wherever he pleases.
And there are no restrictions, and there's nothing going to be coming forth in terms of court issues or injunctions.
Unless part of the settlement... Unless part of the settlement was that he can't go a specific place, which I don't believe so, Darien Mensah is now free and clear to do what he pleases. This is, I believe, the first time an athlete has bought himself out of his NIL deal. I imagine wherever he goes will make him whole, because remember, this was not a Miami lawsuit as it was portrayed in the media. This was a Darien Mensah Duke lawsuit, and they have come to a settlement.
So can you give me some information on Young Money? Lil Wayne, is that his company?
I assume he's part of the financial backers of it. Yeah, it's an offshoot of the record label.
Okay, so now you see what's happening, right? Just pay attention to the game, because the agents and the hip-hop industry and people who know how to make money around the hustle, if you're going to say agents rule things and there are no rules, yeah, we'll just buy ourselves out there and we'll cash in the next future million over here when he goes to Miami and we make him a bigger star. That's the game we're playing now, just so that you know where the power is, how agents run things, and there's less governance there than there is anywhere in what is professional football. So the Lil Waynes of the world and their capitalist hustlers can get into this game, buy the players, say, we got you, kid, we'll front you, whatever.
I think you're seizing on the wrong thing. I'm not sure how involved. I know Lil Wayne is a financial backer here, but this is not anything different. Yeah, he's rep by Young Money, but there are a million agents that would handle this the exact same way.
No, let me backtrack, because what Mike is saying is correct, in that the news of the day, should there be no limitations, is that Mensah is probably coming to Miami, and the next news on that is whatever Duke is willing to or can put up as a fight of, no, we're not the minor leagues for Miami where you can just buy our quarterback when we've got to deal with him. Like, the business of this.
Fight's done.
I know. Okay, the fight is done now, and you're reporting that it's done and that Duke has no recourse. That
unless there's some new information, that's what settlements are.
So what do you imagine that conversation was like? The reason that I brought up the Young Money portion of this is because the ability to buy yourself out of a contract and future conflict is usually something the athlete does not have unless he's pressing against future earnings. So when the business of this comes and the agents get involved, as they are running the sport through these kids, what do you imagine this means to the business of football, as the business of football is what Miami just almost won last year?
I do think that this is an interesting case study, because this is a whole new world with an athlete, specifically at that position, buying himself out of a multi-year NIL agreement. You don't often see multi-year NIL agreements too. Darien Mensah was... I mean, he might be viewed as Curt Flood in a couple of different respects, because Duke, with rev share money, poached Darien Mensah from Tulane, established a whole new market. Mensah got more than double what Cam Ward got for Miami. It sent the quarterback pricing market into a new stratosphere last year. And now he has bought himself out of a multi-year deal, again, kind of like Curt Flood. Just a whole new precedent.
Okay, so how do you guys feel about the Curt Flood thing? Because that is very religious sports language he's using. I want to come back.
It's a bit lofty.
I want to come back here for a second, though, because I've been guilty of being a bit lofty as it comes to Dion and what it is that he was doing and is doing in Colorado as the original business sports mercenary. Young Money, I think, also represented Travis Hunter, okay? And so one of the things that's happening here, Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. Travis Hunter gets Dion that contract. If Travis Hunter becomes a top 5 NFL player, the power in the sport that's going to the player after Northwestern threatened to unionize and everything that happened over the last 5 years, this is a really interesting precedent. If Mike's going to put it in Curt Flood territory, it's a pretty interesting precedent, the details on how you buy yourself out of this deal if you want to be the guy who replaces Fernando Mendoza, because now Indiana's the big program with the big money and you want to be a $5 million a year quarterback.
I think where it can approach Curt Flood territory is you have Dabo, who's as old school as it comes, who's dealing with his own poaching situation and Ole Miss, calling for collective bargaining. People may look to this and say, if multi-year agreements don't mean anything and these athletes can just buy themselves out and score another NIL deal that kind of takes care of their lost wages when it comes to this settlement, then you have something that could potentially be viewed as, if not the tipping point, one of the major things that gets this closer to where it needs to be, which is a collectively bargained sport with clear and identified rules.
It is really fun precedent-setting chaos. Like, it really is. It's fascinating. If you don't have any morality about the capitalism of your games, like if you're just watching it as a test study, what's happened in the last 5 years to this sport, where we all saw that the Mario Cristobal contract was something. If he's going to get the best players, if $90 million on a contract to a coach with a salary cap of about $21 million is going to get you all the biggest and the best players, then everyone's going to want to play that game. And to see Miami rocket through the last 4 years of, the whole thing's changing. It's going to be straight business, straight cash, homie. And to see what's happening where thousands of kids are being churned up in this portal. Like they get college football's door closes in their face. They go from one day to the other not realizing, oh, wait, we were doing business. I did it poorly. Thousands of kids in that portal are having their college careers ended. It's cruel. It's awful. But you're seeing the machine come to life, and there's no stopping it.
The rich get richer in college football right now. And look at what Miami's done. They've gone from record-setting Cam Ward to Carson Beck to Darien Mensah, presuming that they get him. That at the most important position.
Aren't we presuming that?
I would anticipate Darien Mensah being a Miami Hurricane now, and I do think what Greg is outlining is pretty spectacular in that
it is.
They got Cam Ward, they got Carson Beck, looked bleak, and they found a way to get a quarterback that, when held in direct comparison to Sam Levitt. Yeah, because
Mike was
Mensah
very
was
worried.
not in the portal.
I will tell you that 5 days before the national championship, Mike was very worried still, anxious about, we're not going to have a quarterback next year.
We're not going to be able to keep this thing rolling because Emory obviously knows about our pursuits. We were very aggressive in trying to get Sam Levitt. Jimmy Sexton happened there. Jimmy Sexton, who also reps Lane Kiffin, isn't going to stick his neck out, make Lane pick what he believes is the best job in America, and not get Lane the quarterback that he wants. So that's what happened with Sam Levitt. Ty Simpson wasn't a fan of how he handled his business, putting the number out there, but he had 32 NFL GMs telling him he was a first-round draft pick. There weren't really any great options. I was breaking down tape of Western Carolina quarterbacks, and they found a solution here, I think, potentially, if you're to believe what's out there about with Darien Mensah, who I think is a spectacular quarterback.
This is an obvious solution.
An ACC champion.
I don't know why you would be bashful about this. To me, I know that now in retrospect, everyone thinks they knew about whatever they thought they knew about Carson Beck or Cam Ward. But this kid, if you watched football last year, I mean, Trinidad Chambliss would have won the Heisman Trophy if we'd gone another day. But this kid looks like a professional quarterback. The Miami Hurricanes have solved their quarterback situation. They're going to go Cam Ward, Carson Beck, and maybe Mensah's a drop-off from Beck, but I don't think he is actually.
No, I don't believe so either. What I like about Mensah is he's got some guts. We can call it how it is. I think Carson Beck was fundamentally changed after that Louisville game and was a little timid when it came to stretching the field. I'm not sure you're going to see Mensah be that timid. And if you get his receiver, his 1,000-yard receiver from Duke as part of the package deal, you're talking about a loaded Miami team that is well-positioned, and they can make another run. They got to win Charlotte. They got to win the ACC.
Let's get to the schedule in a second because buying the best quarterback and receiver from your conference champion stealing those 2 players from Duke, however it is that you come about getting them, Miami will lose no momentum offensively because Malachi Toney is returning and a lot of good players are returning. Defensively,
and I believe Shannon Dawson is going to stay. There was some hearsay conjecture. He was offered up in some interviews. Some schools reached out to him. I don't think that that's fully buttoned up, but I anticipate Shannon Dawson staying.
And if I may just say, parenthetically, Miami is doing this to Duke at the expense of a former coach, Manny Diaz, which is sort of a fun aside.
Well, Manny Diaz has won a conference championship. Mario Cristobal has not, and this is a funny aside in a number of different ways, as now Duke gets dragged again by big boy football, because that's a program that when Miami was coming up had a track around the field, and Duke was good at offense last year. Duke has been good at offense for a bit, and these 2 players that Miami got, a big, white, fast wide receiver that, never mind the whiteness of it, Miami didn't really have a number 2 last year. C.J. Daniels was hurt. Marion couldn't be trusted, and so you had Malachi Toney being asked to do too much. This guy's not a 2.
No, he's a perfect SAT guy too. Yeah, Barcade is pretty spectacular.
Coach's son.
And that game against Duke is certainly going to have a lot of juice if those 2 players from Duke end up coming to Miami. Really quirky schedule for Miami this year. Do we have sound of Mario Cristobal complaining, openly lamenting the one thing that he would look at the landscape of college football? You ask Mario Cristobal what's the one thing he would change about it, and he invoked the schedule.
One of the top things, it's minor in the eyes of many. I would eliminate Thursday and Friday games, man. College football's for Saturday. That drives me bananas. I know, and that's might be petty to some.
Yeah.
Man, I want college football on Saturdays. I really, really do.
So he's got 3 Fridays and a Thursday this season, including opening the season across the country in Palo Alto for a primetime Friday game. There's a lot of reasons to not like this, what it does to your body clock and whatnot. ACC games, they have this big deal with ESPN. They have that standalone national window. It might benefit some of the players on like the Heisman stage, but also they get spooky. We saw it time and time again. Now, hopefully a more consistent Miami means less spooky hours on Friday. But, yeah, we got 4 of these bad boys, including a FAMU game that will go directly against the NFL kickoff, the first game of the season there. But it does line up pretty well for Miami. And when you consider the 2 storylines of the 2 programs and you look at their schedules, that November 7th game against Notre Dame is going to be so blown up and promoted. You're talking about potentially game of the century type of vibe surrounding that game when you consider all the storylines.
When you look at everything on there, okay, I should point out Manny Diaz is also the guy who refused to let Fernando Mendoza walk on to the University of Miami. But you look at that schedule, and when you talk about business building, put it on the poll, please, Juju, is college football for Saturdays? That's an easy schedule, and that Notre Dame game is an obvious monster. But what we just told you transactionally is going to put Miami in the playoffs next year if they don't get hurt. The thing that I was starting to say, though, is that it's going to be hard to replace that pass rush, right? You don't normally have they fixed their defense in 1 year, and the reason they fixed their defense and the secondary was not exposed more is because in the sport they had the best pass rush because they've got 2 first-round edge rushers. Miami's never had those. Miami doesn't make first-round edge rushers, so to have 2 on the same team is going to be impossible to replace. And I don't say that to criticize Miami. I'm just saying you cannot have the expectation yet that you're the Georgia or Alabama defensive lines where you get all the first-round picks on the defensive line.
This is fair. You citing history is true. Miami's never had an edge rushing tandem the way that they had with Mesidor and Bain. Pretty illustrious program. Those are the best edge rushers we've ever had. They're both going to be first-round picks. Ruben Bain did a hit on the local CBS affiliate, and he said he thinks Miami's defensive line is going to be better next year. Reasons for that: we saw Marquise Lightfoot really come online. Hayden Lowe has been injured all season last year, but he's a gamer, a 5-star type of guy. You look across that entire defensive line, they are all 5 stars, with the exception of Moten, who was fantastic for this team last year. And I will snap back a little bit in that, yes, the edge rushers were amazing. Huge credit to them. Big part of the turnaround. Corey Heatherman, I think, deserves a ton of the compliments here because Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott, not with huge fanfare, they tried to move Keontae Scott to an outside corner at his previous stop. He identified those players. He's exceptional when it comes with those nickel safety hybrid type of guys, and I think Heatherman's going to be a head coach real soon.